Hi, Inspiration Church. My name is Emily. I remember very clearly the day I first walked through your doors and was welcomed with open arms. I was a relatively new believer at the time, and those years I spent in Inspiration were so important to me. So I have a very special place in my heart for you as a church. I was praying yesterday about what to share with you, and there's a really lovely verse in Malachi that I wanted to just speak out to you. Malachi is referring to, here in this verse, the people of the Lord who revere his name, who honour him, who fear the Lord. And that's a fear of being in awe of the Lord, not being scared of him. So it says that those people who feared and honoured his name, the Lord Almighty says this: they will be my treasured possession. They will be my treasured possession. And I believe that is true of you as a church, Inspiration, and everything you do in your community and in your families. You are the Lord's treasured possessions, which I just think is incredible. Interestingly, just a few pages later in our Bibles, we get to the book of Matthew. Even though it's written a long time later, we've entered into the New Testament. But here is a parable from Jesus saying to us that we should not store up our treasures on earth, but rather we should store up our treasures in heaven. He goes on to say, this is Jesus, that when we store up our treasures in heaven, or wherever we store our treasures, wherever we choose to do that, there is where our heart will be. So our heart is where we treasure something, where we store treasures. And I thought about this and I wondered, wow, so if in Malachi we learn that God is saying to us as his people who honour and revere his name, that we are his treasures, that must mean that this is where, as in us, where his heart is. If where you store your treasure is where your heart is, then I just want that to encourage you today. That means that the Lord's heart resides in us as well. His heart is for us. He is our champion because we are his treasured possessions. And that is such an encouragement for me today, and I hope it is for you. Just quickly, I remember when I was about 16, my Bulgarian granny gave me this beautiful golden ring with a precious stone in it. I wore it all the time. It was definitely my most treasured possession during that time. Unfortunately, I was quite a messy teenager, and I actually lost it in my bedroom, shockingly, for nearly 2 years. It's a true story. For nearly 2 years, I couldn't find it, didn't know it was in my bedroom. And actually when I moved out to university, my mum found it, and I just thought, gosh, however much I prized and treasured my most top thing in the world, it doesn't come anywhere near to the way God treasures us and the way God treasures you. As we know from scripture in another parable, God chases after our heart just as a shepherd would leave his 99 sheep behind to look for the one, to find you. So I want to encourage you that the way that God sees you is so much more than we see our own treasures. And I hope that's of encouragement to you today. I just want to remind you again that you as a church, as people, as children of God, are his treasured possession. And yeah, I wish I could all be with you, sending you my love from Oxfordshire, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Lots of love. Bye-bye.